Welcome to the Awakening Podcast. You can find all our episodes on awakeningpodcast.org. We're also on BitChute and YouTube. You'll find the links in the podcast description. And I also am a podcast coach because I've got 5 podcasts. You can find everything on bio.link/podcaster. My guest today, this is one that I'm looking forward to because it's basically affects nearly everybody. Somebody will know somebody that it's going to affect, and it's international. So my guest, she's a medical doctor, certified board certified pediatrician and obesity medicine physician with 20 years of clinical pediatric experience. Plus, you're also a certified life and weight coach. Please welcome Sheila Carroll.
Thank you so much for having me.
No problem at all. So, I mean, obviously, I've read a little bit about you, but you might just let people know a little bit more about who Sheila.
Well, I am a US based. I live up in Maine. I'm a mom too. I have an 11-year-old son. As you said, I've been a working pediatrician for the past 20 plus years. And also, I have a strong interest in helping people with their weight and metabolic health, creating a healthy metabolic system in their body. And there's a newish certification in medicine, obesity medicine. So it's really working with patients about nutrition, and also sometimes medications and sometimes bariatric surgeries, metabolic surgeries. But I really focus on helping outside of medicine. So now I've created a role for myself that I just love, which is helping parents of kids who are struggling with overweight. So I help the parents, and we kind of leave the kids to the side, but I help the parents create the lifestyle that is going to work for them and work for their child and improve the health of the whole family.
Okay, excellent. So what I'd like to do is kind of delve into your own story, because I think it's how you kind of came about getting interested in this. And
Yeah. So my own story is that I am one of 5 kids. And I started struggling with my own weight when I was about, as far back as I can remember, like 9 or 10 years old. And I had a couple of brothers and sisters who were eating the same things as me, but not struggling with their weight, and were just, you know, slim and running around. And I started to notice, like, oh, I'm gaining weight. And I actually really felt quite bad about myself because of that. I felt ashamed. I felt different than the other kids. Of course, I was teased by everybody, teased, at school and at home, not by my parents, but by my brothers and sisters, just kids being kids. But it hurt. And I didn't know what to do. And so I didn't ask my mom, but she took me to the doctor, and he said, he's an old school guy, and he just said, you got to get her to stop eating. And I just, as a kid, like, that's, I'm 55 now. And so I really remember that he gave my mom a pamphlet that told her it should limit me to 1,200 calories a day. And so, as a 10-year-old kid, like, I'm trying to figure out, okay, so here's an apple, how many calories is that? It was clearly like not a winning strategy to make any long-term sustainable change for myself. And it just kind of petered out over time, and we didn't really talk about it very much as my family. And then so I aged, and off and on struggled, completely on, but like sometimes my weight was higher, sometimes a little bit less, sometimes higher. I was always a sports person, so I love sports. I played sports in high school and college, and I think that kept me busy, number one, but also active. But it wasn't until I took a job as a doctor, as a hospitalist, where you only work in the hospitals, taking care of sick patients. And part of that job was night shifts. So I was awake from I was awake all day, and then I would go to work at 7 p.m. and come home at 7 a.m. or 8 a.m. And so I did that for 10 years, but day shift and then night shift, day shift, night shift. So it was and I had a very young son at that time, and I gained a lot of weight. So I gained like 40 pounds. Um, and then I really realized, like, I have got to get on top. I want to get on top of this. I just don't feel good in my body, like, and I wanted to change. And I found a coaching program, a life coaching program, actually run by a medical doctor, a MD like myself, who she happened to be a pediatrician too. But she had basically had a very similar story to mine, and a different life coach helped her. But what was so then she started her own program. But what was so amazing about this was it was twofold. It it actually taught me new science that I didn't know before. Medicine is where we've been taught for so long that weight is all about calories coming in versus calories going out. And um, that's the most important thing. But it turns out that weight is a lot more than just the numbers of calories coming in, calories going out. Weight is hormonal. So depending on what you're choosing to eat, for example, if say you eat, 200 calories of chicken versus 200 calories of something with a lot of sugar, cookies, for example, your body's going to have a much different hormonal response. So you eat the sugar, your insulin is going to go up. Insulin is a fat storage hormone. So it triggers this metabolic cascade. So it turns out that what you eat does matter. And honestly, like, we don't talk about that so much in medicine because it's not a widely, I guess I would say not every medical doctor truly believes that yet. I
Well, I
think
suppose
they'll,
it's the other thing is it seems to be all about the money, unfortunately.
oh, I
So
know,
it's the
I
prescription, the
know.
pills and everything, the surgery. That's where the money is. They don't want to be doing things that they can't make money from, unfortunately.
And as a doctor, I feel like, I honestly can say my dad is a doctor too. He's 90 now. He's retired. But I can honestly say in all my years of experience, I've never met a doctor that I believe would just prescribe something for the money or do a procedure for the money. But I know what you're saying, and I do think it is baked into the system of, the governments. And I'm not an expert at this kind of thing, but like, where is all the money coming from? For example, the food guidelines are created, you know, by the same government who's subsidizing the corn production, which is creating all the high fruit corn syrup, which is creating all the very low cost soda, which is so detrimental to people's health. So there's definitely a conflict of interest as you go up the money chain, for sure, for sure. Um, so so I learned new nutrition. I learned, new facts, so to speak, about the hormonal response to foods. And then I learned the skill set of um, thinking about your thinking, and understanding that our thoughts create our feelings and our feelings drive our actions. And so we have to understand, we can understand why we're actually eating something. Like, if you say yourself, I'm not going to eat that, I know it's not good for me, but for some reason you do go ahead and eat that, you can actually go back and look at what were you thinking in that moment that you ate that might have been kind of unconscious, or kind of not completely in your awareness at that time. And it's just so fascinating to look at why we are choosing to eat some things. So, and a lot of it is not for true physical hunger, but for emotional reasons. I was bored, I was stressed out, I was whatever, you know?
And there's
Um,
probably situations as well when there's a few in the household, 2 to 4 people, that one says, "Oh, I feel like a cookie with a cup of tea," and the other
yeah.
person wouldn't have the urge or the feeling for, but it's just say, "Yeah, me too." And then when they've got the urge for something else, and you end up having things that you shouldn't, like just spiraling up.
Exactly, exactly. So you use the word urge, and that's a word I talk about a lot too, because that's the other thing that's so fascinating is our bodies. We are a very ancient body, like a human body, right? We've been around for, I don't even know how many millions of years, but we've evolved in a way that our brain recognizes if you do something that's pleasurable and it doesn't harm you really, like right in that moment, oh, that's good for me, I should do more. So for example, you're sitting around at home watching something or hanging out, and your brain suggests, oh, I should have cookies and tea, or I should have cookies at whatever. That's the urge. That's just our very ancient brain offering us that would be good for you, go ahead and eat, go ahead and eat that, drink that. And lots of times we're just like, oh, okay, and we just blindly follow our like old brain. But if you can get the skills to pause there and ask yourself, okay, am I really truly hungry? Where is this coming from? Why am I doing that? Then you can get a little bit more control of um, your eating habits and what's going on.
And I suppose, like with myself, what I do is I make sure I don't buy it. So, for example, if I have a chocolate bar that's full of sugar, I just gorge it, and it's like I look at myself after, but I don't buy it. I buy like 85% cocoa. So I just take, and there's times I could have a week without having, and then when I want it, I might have a coffee. I'll have 1 or 2 squares, and I'm done. So
Hmm.
it's like, whereas I know other households, especially my mom, she makes sure she's loads of stuff in for when the guests come. And for me, it's like, I don't want to be having unhealthy stuff in the house because I'll eat it. And if your guests come, it's better to give them something healthy, which we tend to think, oh, you have to have the cake. The same with the birthday parties, because I mean, since we're you're dealing with children, like it is so strange that everything, and this is international because I've seen this in Ireland and in Poland, when there's a birthday party, it's all sweets. There's nothing healthy. Like
I know.
everything is just
I
sugar,
know.
sugar, sugar. Then the
Mhm.
children are wild later and the parents are freaking out because it's a kind of knock on effect. But there's like, we haven't developed a system. I don't know if you got a solution for that one, because I know that seems to be.
Well,
And the problem is they go to, like, if they're in a class, they're going to a birthday party every 2 weeks, if
oh,
not even more. Like,
more than that. And then you go to soccer, and after the soccer game, somebody brings in whatever, cookies, Gatorade, and I think it's the culture, here in the US at least, and probably other places. It's We think that's fun. We think that, oh, it's so fun to have, cookie. It's so fun to have cupcakes. This will make the party more fun. And what I say to my son and my patients and clients, it's like, it's not the food that's fun. It's not the drink that's fun. It's the thought you're having about the drink or the food. And that's a kid can't really make that leap. Like my son is looking at me like, what are you talking about? He's kind of like, of course cupcakes are fun. But I'm trying to say, like, no, because I don't think cupcakes are fun. I think cupcakes are, not healthy. So but he's thinking it's fun. But so us parents, this is where we really need to start reevaluating and asking ourselves the question, you know, why are we giving our kids this? What do we think what are we trying to do? Like for example, you go to the beach for the day and it's amazing, and on the way home, there's a little ice cream stand. And I've had this thought in the past, like, oh, that will make our day more fun. This will make our day even better. And, the truth is that's just a thought, that's just an error. That's just like a thought error. And so, but the first step is really becoming aware of why we're giving our kids what we're giving. And I'd like to say, like, this is important for, I like to help, or I have a real soft spot for kids who are struggling with weight and their families. But honestly, even if you have a very slim child, they shouldn't be eating cupcakes and Gatorade all the time either, because it's their body might not be storing it as extra weight right now, at least, but metabolically they're still having those insulin swings, and they're having their liver affected by the high fructose corn syrup coming in. So, I think a lot of parents, and this is also just the culture that we're in. If your child isn't having a weight problem or a visible weight problem, you might think it's totally fine for them to be eating and drinking all of the things, that that are designed for kids. But the truth is they really would be healthier if they didn't eat and drink those things.
Yeah, and like when you see the parents, because like the young children, it's not their fault, it's the parents' fault, and you see them going around the supermarket, and you just know by looking in the basket or the trolley, and they're wobbling along, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Like when you're coaching, like the reality is you kind of have to have all of them, because like I educate my son the whole time. He's 9, and basically I have an app, so I've put it on him. I'll scan something, he looks at it, the app tells you what's in it, because a lot of the time the trickery in the way that they market stuff, so like no sugar, but yet they've got all the other things that are 100 times worse. There's so many things, even natural this, and when you start looking, it's like, because it's got one natural ingredient but can have 50 toxins, it doesn't matter. And you'd look, by looking at the label, you actually think you're buying something natural. And I was showing my mum on like a shampoo or something the other day when we were shopping, and I said, "Do you see that? Do you think that's natural?" And she says, "Yeah, it says natural, it's up that." And it's like in small writing, it's like 91%, and then it's like the sodium lauren fluoride, everything.
Yeah.
And it's the same with the food, unfortunately, and the processed stuff. And I know that there's a lot of labeling as well, because when it's the trickery that they do, they don't even have to say all the ingredients that are in it.
Mm-hmm. This is part of the problem of, the regulations that govern, the packaging. The last time I looked, there was more than 270 different names for sugar. So you might be trying to read the label, but you have to be like a PhD in figuring out all the different names for sugar. And some of them sound very healthy, organic, whatever. I can't even think of, like,
But even when
organic.
they say like glucose or something like that, people think that's, and glucose syrup and things like that. And they're just
Yeah.
assuming that's something like, and then there was like Nora Sweet. And because people became aware of that, then they changed the name and started creating other ones. And
Yeah,
it's,
yeah, yeah,
and like it's the aspartame. I mean, that was actually banned, and they basically bribed their way to change that. And yet people are eating the chewing gum with that, the diet
yeah.
colas with that.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And it's actually got the opposite effect from what I've seen is the people think they're getting the zero cola, that they're going to lose weight. It actually makes them fat because of the toxins in it.
Yeah, and because of the confusing messages, that those artificial sweeteners are, anywhere between like 300 to 3,000 or even more times sweeter than regular sugar. So you eat something like that, and it's your brain gets the message, oh, I should be getting some really good energy / calories coming in because this is so sweet. And then because it has 0 calories attached to it, your body, you never get that energy attached to that sweetness. and it drives your hunger more so that you'll go, because now you need to find those calories to kind of help your body get that complete feeling it's looking for, so to speak. That's a
Yeah, yeah.
generalization, but yeah, those sweeteners are, there's a big my son, so my son loves sports too, and all the kids drink a lot of Gatorade, a lot of whatever Powerade stuff, total, sugar. Like, I think the last Gatorade I looked at had 39 grams of added sugars. So here's a tip for your listeners, or parents out there. Learning to read labels is so important, and the one of the biggest bangs for your buck is going to be looking for added sugars. Now, at least in the United States, the packaging has to say how much added sugars. So it's not talking about natural sugars like from a apple, from fruit or anything like that, but it's like cane sugar, table sugar, maple syrup, whatever they've added in. And the foods with the lowest added sugars would be some of the better choices to make. Um, the A bunch of the guidelines, the American Heart Association, I believe the CDC, they recommend that babies, so if you're 0 years old, 0 to 2 years old, you have no added sugars in your diet. You have no, you don't, parents shouldn't be buying anything with added sugar. So those puffs, those little biscuits, all of that stuff, your baby doesn't need that. And then 2 years old, moving forward, the recommendation is 24 grams of sugar a day, which is 6 teaspoons of sugar. So if you were to go into your kitchen and get a teaspoon, which is 5 cc's or 5 milliliters, and you scooped out, 6 of those, you'd have a little mountain of table sugar on a plate. That's the recommendation for the day. And some people think even that's too high. But so then you go to the grocery store and you buy a Gatorade, that one bottle of Gatorade has 39 grams of sugar in it. So, and so you can start looking at the foods you're giving your kids, the cereals, even foods that we think are healthy, like yogurt. Most kids like aren't naturally reaching for the plain yogurt. They're going for fruit yogurt. So it might seem like healthy, but look at how much added sugar is in there, because they dump a lot of added sugars into these things, and that's why our kids will willingly eat them. Other
What I've
forms of,
seen, just sorry to interject,
yeah,
but what
no,
I've
it's fine.
seen in Poland, and I don't know, I assume you can get this everywhere, is they have the water with the cuddly bear on the side of it to attract, and they're like 10% plus sugar. And like straight away, I was saying to my child, no, you're not getting that. There's no way you're
Yeah,
getting that. But
right.
like a lot of people, they think, oh, I'm not giving them cola, I'm giving them water. And
I
there's
know.
trickery involved in that as well.
Yeah. And so that just speaks to, as a consumer, as a parent, we really need to educate ourselves, because they're not going to stop selling this stuff to us, for example, like I always just ask my son, I talk about this stuff all the time with him. I'm like, why do we even let people sell Coca-Cola to children, or to anybody really? There's not a single thing about Coca-Cola that is good for anybody's health. It's just about the money that for that company. So no one's going to stop Coca-Cola, I doubt, or I don't know, but it would be wonderful if they did, but they don't, there doesn't appear to be.
And I think that a lot of people don't know, and I'm not sure if you're aware, but like Vanguard, and there's another one as well, BlackRock, they own shares in both Coke and Pepsi. So they own basically majority of things. So it's like the politics,
Yeah,
they're
yeah,
doing the exact same thing, and you think one is better than the other, and they're just playing as if,
right,
oh, this one is better.
yeah.
No, the whole lot is trickery.
Right. Yeah. So that's not going away. So the only thing that we have control over is what we do ourselves. And so then that it just takes education and awareness of, oh, I I really shouldn't be eating that. All right, this is, if I choose to drink this, this is what's going to happen inside my body. And then, you know, as a grown up, that's your choice as to what you do. Um, but we can't expect our kids to, they don't have the thought processes yet, you know, the very thinking part of your brain, the kind of the CEO of your life, the part of your brain that makes your decisions, plans for your future, tries to, you know, get everything organized. That part of your brain doesn't fully come online until you're in your 20s, you know.
Well,
I mean,
it seems
it's
like 90% of people, actually, it's never come online if you look at the way that they're acting.
well, you know, yeah, and it's true, because we do have, this, like we talked about before, that ancient part of our brain, you know, that um the whole, how we've evolved is to seek pleasure, avoid pain, and exert as little energy as possible. They call that the motivational triad. And that's how humans have evolved for as long as that's why we're so successful as a species, because we try to do that. But the problem is, now the world we're living in, the food system we're living in, the social media, the screens that we're living in, it's not good for our brains. It's not good for our bodies. It's not good for our brains. It's not good for our mental health. The only answer to that is becoming aware of what choices you have to make for your own health. And you can do it. And it's not that hard. And it's not that painful. And you'll feel so much better. So when you start, you know, kids can't make that decision. My son, you know, sometimes he chooses, if I'm not there, he probably would, you know, would definitely choose a Gatorade with his friends, with his buddies, you know. I can't blame him for that. It's just his brain. It's just whatever. He's 11 years old, you know. But as a parent, I can not buy that stuff. I cannot bring that into the house. I cannot support that. And at the same time, I can educate him. Here's why I don't want you drinking this. And also, you know, he didn't like it at all, but I actually measured out all the sugar, you know, that's in one of those things. And it's, even for a kid, it's pretty horrifying when you do that. So I think as parents become educated, and then depending on the age of your child, you educate your child with the ultimate goal of, as your child ages and they kind of, you know, on this long runway towards adulthood, just like we do with alcohol or any kind of drugs or safety driving, things like that, we are trying to educate them so that when they do have their full autonomy and their ability to make their own decisions, at least they'll have knowledge and kind of know what we expect from them and know what we hope for them. So I think parents have to learn the education first so that the parents can provide that to their kids as they developmentally age.
And like with my son, there was somebody buying him hot dogs, and I kept telling him, this isn't good for you. There's talk. So what I did is I actually went on a YouTube video and showed him how it's made. The same with chicken nuggets. And he
Yeah.
doesn't want it no more. He's like, ugh. And I
Yeah.
like the fact that he actually, if he wants something, he'll say, give me the phone in the supermarket, and he scans it and he's like, whoa. But there is times that there's stuff that's healthy. But I think when the child is eating a lot healthier, because it's like with me, there was one time about 3 or 4 years ago, I was in a different place. The garages were closed. The only food I could get was McDonald's. And I stayed, and I was felt so bad for like 36 hours. And it's like, because I'm eating healthy, my body was like, this isn't food. And
Right.
he's seen that, and he's seen, you know, that when people now are putting this stuff away for 3 years, and then it looks the exact same. You know, they're kind of realizing, like what I say to him is when, like, because I got carrots that were supposed to be bio carrots from one of the shops place, and they're in the garden since August and they still look the same. But the ones I got from the farmer, because I didn't eat them all, you know, they could see them kind of disintegrate, and I threw them all. They went away straight away, and he's seen that. So like,
Yeah.
unfortunately, there's kind of trickery as well with this bio thing. They're just kind of using it as a trick. Not everything that they're labeling as bio is bio, unfortunately.
Mm,
I don't know.
yeah.
Have you seen the same? Is it the same in the
Well, we don't
States?
have that label bio, and at
Yeah.
least that's not something I'm familiar with.
Yeah. Organic, like, it
But
says,
yeah, organic.
yeah,
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 I
yeah, yeah,
totally got that. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So for sure. Well, it sounds like your son is really listening to what you're teaching him. That's so
Yeah, I
great.
mean, like,
Yeah.
because I know you mentioned that as well in the thing. Like, it's basically try to let the child make their own choice. I know, and it's not that, like, I don't know. Is it that we go cold turkey? The reason why I find this, like, I buy a cake once a week. We have a cake, and I kind of limit it, and it's like let's call it a sweet day, because I know that with my cousin, he basically said no sweets, no nothing when his child was younger. Totally, no one was allowed to give man. That child now is addicted to sweets. Whereas the
Yeah.
other child, he kind of didn't have the same thing, and it's just like normal, you'd eat a bit now and again. And I don't know, is it because everyone around, or should we be allowing ourselves to have, the cake, the muffin once a week, or are you better off just never touching any of this stuff?
Well, what what I think is like the ultimate freedom, true freedom around food is you can be in a room of like anything go into the grocery store, go to a party, go whatever. True freedom is really understanding I can eat that if I want to, but do I want to? And if you do, fine, go ahead and eat it. If you really are like, you know what? No, I'm caring about my metabolic health. I'm caring about my body, caring about my weight, my sleep, all the things like that's what freedom is around food. It's just like not giving yourself a hard no, you can never eat that again. Like, I guess you could try that if you wanted to, and if it works for you, fine. But that's I don't know. That to me, like, I don't think that that's a great solution. And I think for sure every single person has a different like desire for sweet things or, kind of certain unhealthy things like some people naturally gravitate towards fruits and vegetables, other people less so. I think we're all wired slightly differently in that regard, and we're also wired differently, like how our bodies respond to certain foods. So one of the skills is learning your own body. Like you said, you realized your body didn't feel well physically after you ate McDonald's. Like that's a really important like finding for yourself. We tend to not really um, link what we eat with our physical feelings. We're all like in our head all the time, and we sometimes don't really focus on how our body is feeling. And so that's the other thing we try to focus on is like when you do eat this, how do you feel afterwards? And that takes just some slowing down, actually trying to spend some time. And at first it's kind of tricky to do because you're kind of like, well, I don't know how I feel. I don't know about my body, because we don't talk about it like that. But that's another really important um, skill to have is to, you know, when I eat this certain food, I feel like this afterwards. So I don't eat it anymore so I think
And
that's
on
important too.
on the kind of the opposite side as well, like say if a child, when they went to the grandparents or something like that, and they were getting a cake, and obviously the grandparents are showing them so much love, and then they pass on, so then they're reaching for that same kind of thing that they got as a
Yeah,
comfort, because it's reminding them of them, and they're thinking that's what they actually need, when it's really they're
yeah.
missing the grandparents.
Right. Exactly. That's like food is love.
Yeah.
Sometimes I hear people say that, well, food is the way I show love. And I'm like, well, yes, I know. And our culture talks like that. But food isn't love. Food is just food. It's like molecules stuck together in a certain way. Love comes from your thoughts and your feeling. It's completely different. So it's the thought you're having when you're giving your child a cake, or the grandmother's giving your child a cake. Your grandmother is loving your child so much they could still do that without the cake. you know if your grandmother was, if the grandmother decided to do coloring with the child instead of feeding them a cake, then your child would associate coloring and spending time with the grandmother with love, as love. This is love
Yeah.
so I think just untangling that and being willing to really look at what the other thing parents do sometimes, and we all do it, is reward kids with food. And that's also the message that, like, food is not just for fuel. Food is for, that contributes to emotional eating, so to speak, eating for reasons that aren't just to fuel your body. Oh, you won the game, let's go celebrate with a pizza. Or, oh, things didn't go so well today, let's go get an ice cream and that'll cheer us up, or something like that.
And that tends to be the thing. Let's get that. It will cheer us up. So you're programming that, and they just make the assumption then that, oh, every time I eat this, I'm going to be cheered up. And it's like,
Well, the thing is, you are cheered up when you eat that. You know what I mean? Because it works. That's
yeah.
that's the thing. It temporarily works because you eat that, your brain gets a dopamine hit. You do feel better. You're like, yeah, okay, I feel better. So it works. We do it because it works, right?
Mm.
But the thing is it going to work long term for us? Is that really what we're gonna? Is that really what we're how we're gonna thrive in this modern world? No, but 100 years ago, there was an ice cream to go cheer yourself up with. People weren't like, well, let's go eat an apple, or let's go eat some, whatever, have a steak and cheer up. I mean, those would be better choices for sure. But it's because of the modern world that we're living in, with our very old body, that it's not working for us. Because what happens is then, as you get older, oh, I had a rough day at work. Oh, just had a conversation with this colleague. And even little things that kind of throw you off, you're thinking, I need to feel that. I want to feel a little bit better. Oh, I'll eat this. I'll eat this. I'll eat this. And it just adds up over time.
Yeah. With like when children are being bullied when they're overweight, one of the side effects to that is overeating because of the
Yeah,
depression, and it's a kind of knock-on
exactly.
effect, which
Yeah.
people don't kind of talk about, that how a poor child can be depressed because of being mocked, and then their comfort is actually, and you'd even hear of children, they're hiding the food from the parents, they're
Yeah.
hiding it under the mattress and stuff like that, so when they're not looking, they're gorging.
Yeah, because it's a coping strategy, and you do, like we just said, you do feel better. So you have a negative emotion, and instead of, this is one thing I really spend a lot of time with my clients on, the parents, um, helping the parents learn how to help their child process or feel a negative emotion, because this is something we all need. This is a skill, I needed someone to actually teach me, several years ago, was, when you feel bad about something, so say you're a child, someone is saying something mean to you, and you feel bad, we tend to either want to make it go away, pretend it's not happening, push it down, and we do that by, adults do it in multiple different ways. We overeat, we overdrink, we overshop, we overscroll, over anything. We're overing whatever because we don't want to feel that feeling. So learning to feel that feeling in your body. So it's very hard, well, it's not hard, but you have to learn how to do it when your child comes to you and says, so and so said this to me today, called me fat. okay, how did you feel? And then you have to be willing to let your child explain to you or try to figure out themselves how do they feel. And you might be wanting to offer them some emotion words, and then, and trying to connect the thinking, like we sometimes, well, I felt bad. I felt okay, yeah, you felt bad in your brain, so to speak, but did you feel, where did you feel it in your actual body? Like, did you have that feeling? Sometimes when um get an email from your boss or something and your heart rate goes up immediately, or you're like get a drop in your stomach, you've got a physical body attached to these feelings, attached to any thought you're having up in your brain because of the chemical release from the thought that creates the feeling. And so being able to tie that into your body and help your child just stay with that feeling of sadness or mad if someone insulted them, like, and then being willing to just have your child feel that and process it, so to speak, is the term that we use, like, allow the feeling. And honestly, by doing that, it makes it go away. It's by, like, refusing to process it or refusing to allow it. It's like holding a beach ball underwater, so to speak. You can hold it there for a long time, but it's gonna pop up somewhere else. So teaching the skill of allowing our emotions and feeling our feelings in our actual body is so powerful for kids, and freeing, really.
And with, say, when you're kind of coaching then, and say you have, two parents, and one looks after himself, but the other just gorges, and you have the child. Do you get the three of them kind of going through this, or do you try to get the one that seems to be more in control? What's the best kind of solution for
Well,
that situation?
there's oftentimes that there's often that situation. One person's really interested in how, in change, but another person's not really ready for change. Another really common thing is split households. And one, oh well, we eat this way at my house, and then we eat this way at dad's house. So there's a lot of can be a lot of conflict in parenting in that regard for a child. So again, I my approach is to just kind of take the child outside of this. They're not involved in these discussions. And the discussion is, if both parents want to be involved, amazing and great. If only one wants to be involved, that's fine too. But the one parent being involved has to understand they can't control the other parent. So, all of us, the only person we can control is ourselves. So, we work on optimizing or really getting good handle on what that person wants how that person wants to show up, the habits that person wants to create, because you can't force a grown up to do what they don't want to do. And frankly, we can't really force our kid, we can force them, but that's not really a long-term solution. So for the parents, it's control what you can control, which is, what you're doing, how you're thinking about things, how you're feeling, and what you're doing, and allowing the other person to be themselves as well, and just releasing that control, doing what you can. For example, like me, I'm a single parent. I'm an only parent to my son, so I don't have that issue. But I do have the issue of when he goes over to friends' houses. My son goes to visit his friends, and I'm like, oh, geez. I just know, But I've decided for me, I'm not going to control them. I'm not calling them up and saying, don't let Theo eat that. Don't let him eat that. Okay, I don't want to live my life like that, and I don't want to control his life like that. And it's just not for me. It's not appropriate for me. So I control what I can control, which is all of the food that I have in the house, all of the meals that I have with my son, and then I feel good about how I'm showing up as a parent. And that makes a world of
No,
difference.
no, definitely. And like I have
Yeah.
equal custody of my my child. And what I'm doing is when I see something that's not good, I'll just use the app and I tell him as well. I go, look, yeah, I know this tastes lovely.
Yeah.
And slowly then he's actually, telling his mom, I don't want this. Or
Yeah.
even with like say the cheese, I was telling him, look, this isn't really cheese. Cheese should melt when you burn it. And when you burn it, you see it turning, it's like burning plastic. I go, that is not cheese. And just to become aware of that. So when you see
Yeah.
that, then you go, I never want that again. And like, I think we have to, especially for, people that there's so much going on. You don't have to do everything overnight. Just kind of decide, okay, let's do this. Because that's what I was doing at the start. I mean, I hadn't a clue. I just assumed something was great. And realizing there's 5% of sugar in sauces. And it's like,
Yeah.
whoa, you're just shocked. So you
Ketchup.
just,
Yeah.
but then you become conscious of the ones that don't have that. And,
Mm-hmm.
it's the odd time you might pay a little bit extra. But what you'll find is you'll eat less because you can eat, I mean, I eat just twice a day. And then
Yeah, me too.
where sometimes they're constantly eating
Yeah.
because it's like eating the pizza or the bread, just you get more, you want the carbs, you want to keep eating, and it's just, it ends up
And
costing you a lot more.
there's a reason for that. I mean, that's your body, that's our body, our human body's response to sugar. It, you do get hungrier. And so people, it's hard for people to believe, but the less sugar, the less flour, when you eat flour, white flour, or even brown flour, but wheat flour, it just converts right to sugar. So they're essentially the same thing, kind of below the neck. So when you eat lots of foods with flour and sugar, you're hungry. You're hungrier than you would be if you were choosing not to eat those. So when I stopped eating flour and sugar, I could not believe how not hungry I was. And, you know, you actually have to like, oh, you're not hungry, but you're kind of bored. And I'm like, oh, I usually eat something right about now, and I'm like, geez, I'm not even hungry. So I think that wasn't something I was willing to believe until I actually did it for myself. And so that's something I don't encourage parents to try to, completely block out flour and sugar for their kids really ever. People need to figure out what's going to work for them, but I do encourage parents to try it for themselves, because when you give up flour and sugar, even for a couple of weeks, you will realize how good you feel. You didn't even know you were feeling kind of not that good, but then you feel so much better and so much less hungry. And there's nothing painful, or you don't feel deprived at all. It's just, oh, because this is how our bodies were designed to work.
Yeah. And with say the meds now that they're giving the kids, which is, I mean, it's more education is what should be done. But I mean, just from my own studying of any medication, they're all toxins. But giving a young child something, I presume some of these things are to suppress the hunger and stuff like that. I
Yeah.
mean, like the side effects it's terrible when they're doing that. It's the same with surgery as well for a young child.
Oh my gosh, I know. The newest American Academy of Pediatric guidelines came out in January for it's treatment. It's not prevention. They're not prevention guidelines. They're treatment of obesity guidelines. So and they are they recommend, the first thing they recommend are intensive lifestyle changes. So that means like kind of what I'm talking about. Buffing up, really drilling down, dialing in the food you're eating, the sleep, getting enough sleep, moving your body, and these emotional regulation skills, stress management kind of skills. So, working on all of that, if that's not helping move the needle, then then they are offering kids as young as 12 and 13 years old medications and or bariatric surgery. So that's rough. I mean that's those kids are so young. Um, it it's a problem though, you know, I meaning like there are patients, there are people who are really suffering from extreme obesity. We're talking, you know, a 12-year-old person who might be 300 pounds. So in that situation, maybe a medication would help like jumpstart, you know, some of these newer medications, they're super effective. Um, but the problem they do decrease your hunger. They do decrease hunger. And they work because people aren't eating as much. The problem is the studies are showing that, well, we don't have these long-term studies. What does it do to a 12-year-old person? You know, if you take this medication for 5 years, and I'm not sure that we know the answer to that. Additionally, we know from adults that when adults go off of that medication, they gain weight right back. So my suggestion would be like, okay, maybe we do need a medication temporarily to get you at least started, and at the same time, while this medication is suppressing your hunger, well, not you so much as the kid, but the parents are learning all the skills that you and I have already been talking about today that are gonna help you get the same result without the medication. Because I truly think like if people were willing, if people knew how these processed foods were affecting their bodies, and they knew there were ways that they could work on themselves to get to a place where you don't feel deprived if you're not having cake. I don't care if I ever have cake again. Honestly, I'm just at that place. I didn't used to be, but I am there now. I don't feel deprived that I don't drink soda or I don't drink, you know, sugary coffees or anything like that. I used to feel like I would be upset if I couldn't have what I wanted, but now I realize like I don't even actually want that, you know? So we need to teach people that skill of being being able to do what you actually want to do for yourself. And that has to do with increasing your capacity to feel negative emotions. One of my coaches always says, you don't have an overeating problem, you have an underfeeling problem. And I think that's so true, but you need to actually do a little bit of work to even get to that place to fully understand that message. Because we're all eating, the culture is eating for so many reasons other than fueling our body. Because if we were only eating to fuel our body, we wouldn't be eating these processed foods that are causing this problem in the first place.
Well, I mean, the reality is everything could be stopped overnight because they could just stop allowing these and stopping all the ingredients, you know, and the same with feeding GMO to the animals that were, I mean, it's a big chain reaction and giving them, you know, hormones and antibiotics and everything. The whole lot goes into the food system that goes into us, and it's all orchestrated, unfortunately. But I think, you know, what you've been mentioning is it comes within. We have a choice. You look on the shelf, do I go for, you know, the carrot or do I go for the muffin? And, you know, yeah, do I really feel better after it? What's going to, you know, because you'll get sluggish as well. Because that's the other thing. When you start eating health, I mean, I just went through years of eating. When I was in Ireland, I was working, so I remember using the microwave oven. And once I found out I never knew anything about that. I mean, this is all a journey. When I realized I will never, ever, anything, there's never a microwave in my house. It's like, and everyone I see, I tell them, get that out of your house. I even tell them to do a test. I say, put one phone in there, close the door and get the other person to ring. That's the scary one, because 90% of the time it'll actually ring, which means it's leaking. And unfortunately, you've little children looking at the light, the thing going around, it's going straight into them.
Yeah.
It is so dangerous. So it's a kind of learning curve for everything that we're doing.
And like you said too, you know, so it can seem overwhelming to try to, oh my gosh, where do I even start? This is too much. But just like you said, pick one thing, even 1% change, you know, one little thing today, you know, it doesn't have to be huge, you know, it can even, if changing what you're eating is too much right now, then try to focus on your sleep. Get more sleep, get a little bit more exercise, move around. And then, then try to pick low-hanging fruit, switch out, drink more water, drink less, whatever, small incremental changes do add up. And like you said, when you notice that you're feeling better, it's so much easier to be healthier because you're feeling good. So you're like, oh man, I'm going to keep doing this. It's when life gets hard and things are kind of, dicey for a little while. That's when people tend to go towards some less healthy habits because they do make us feel good. And that's okay too, but just understand what's actually going on, and that'll help you, be able to course correct when things get back more to normal, so to speak. I don't want people to feel badly that they're eating, whatever. This isn't a judgment. Food is not bad, morally bad or good. Food is just food. But what we need to realize is not all food is healthy for us. And like we've been saying, so many of the foods that are available to us are just trying to make some company money. And they're not healthy for us. And we need to really understand that our body is old, and we need to work with our body and eat food that serves our body. Food is fuel for us, and these foods that are made in labs and made in these big processing plants, it's not good fuel. It's like putting, I don't even know, watered down gas or, something kind of in your car. I use this analogy with kids all the time because they understand it. Like when your car's running out of gas, what do? Oh, we go to the gas station. Okay. And you put real gas in your car, right? Are you putting Gatorade in? No. Are you putting, and so the gas, whole, real, unprocessed foods are like the true gas for our body, our machine body, like a car. Kids understand that for sure.
No, definitely. And I'm just curious your thoughts on, because I don't know, do they actually do it with children, the gastric belts? Because there's a guy that I know, and just kind of going a few times into a restaurant, and it seems to me like a very unnatural. It did help him; he lost a load of weight, but at the same time, he just starts eating. You go, not done. He gets this. And
yeah,
I mean, it's an unnatural problem. And I'm just wondering, are they trying to push that on children as well, or is that something that they just keep with the adults?
That surgery, the gastric band, has that procedure is not as popular, so to speak, as it used to be. But they are offering some kids bariatric surgery as young as 13 years old now. So, and what that usually is, it's a gastric sleeve or a combination procedure that takes out part of your stomach. So that's, I personally haven't had any patients who've had that done. But, again, this is, if imagine if you weighed, 400 pounds, 350 pounds, or, and it seems, and you seem unable to make the changes. However, that's really where, for me, I believe everybody can make these changes with the right help and the right support and and just sticking with it. So, it's hard for me to really imagine the desperation a family must feel, but every parent, every single parent loves their child so much. I have honestly, in all my years, never met a parent who doesn't love their kid. And so parents are doing the best that they can for their kids. And we just need to help them and empower them and help parents really understand this is a responsibility of a parent. Just like we make our kids wear their seatbelt in the car, just like, no matter how much he ever begged me, I would never, give him a beer, so to speak, at this age, right? We need to start standing up and doing that with food and exercise and movement and sleep and taking control of our kid, doing what we can, setting the healthy lifestyle, because our culture is not going to do that for us.
Oh, excellent. And just finally, like with the coaching that you're doing, and I know you kind of do, is it, I don't know, 12-week or 15-week, but you might just kind of give us a synopsis of what you kind of cover for that, for those, that might be interested.
Yeah, sure. So everybody's coming to it with a different starting place. So I work with the parents to, figure out what their biggest problems are. Some of my parents' problems are they are having problems themselves. Like they're like, I'm not eating this way. I'm not getting good sleep. How can I model this behavior for my child when I'm not doing this? And so, okay, we start with the parent. Okay, what do we need to do to help you, tune up what you want to do so that you can model the behavior? Some parents already have that dialed in, and they're trying to figure out how to help their child. Because what's happening too is the kids are pushing back. If you change some of the things that you're serving your child at first, they might not want to eat that, and they might not be happy, and it can create conflict. So we work on a lot of skills of how parents can manage, not to make the conflict go away, because that's not really the goal. The goal is the parent stays calm, centered, confident that they're doing the right thing, and is able to manage that conflict. So everybody comes at it from a little bit of a different place, but and every family has different goals in mind. But I work with people individually to just achieve the goals that they set for themselves. It's about what they want for themselves, and they want for their health and their child. And basically education, empowerment, helping the parents believe that they can make the changes, that and believe that their child can make the changes. And we also work on doing it in a way that's I call it a supportive environment, which is the parents showing a lot of empathy, and confidence in the child, and compassion, that this is hard to change, and it's hard, and I know you can do it. And because now I've learned something new, and I've decided, for me as a parent, this is what I say to my son: as your mom, as your parent, it's my job to serve you the healthiest food that I can. So I can't buy you Doritos anymore, or whatever, I said, it's just my job. It's my job. And I know it's hard sometimes, and I know we can handle it. And so it's a long game. It's not a quick fix. This is not a diet. This is not a 12-week program and bam, everyone's going to be, it's like, it's getting all of the skills that you're just going to be working on and practicing down the line, and moving forward. And it's just, I love it because people just change their lives, and they feel better, and their kids feel better, and they have such a good relationship, and everybody's happier. It's so powerful. It's so wonderful. It's so freeing for people.
And there's a few things. I mean, there's a few things I've done, whether they're brilliant or not, but they're better than what I was doing. But for example, I will never get the Lay's or the Doritos or any of these things. But I'll make the popcorn, but I don't make popcorn in oil. I've got a heated machine, so it's the hot air, and it's because the oil can be bad as well with the popcorn. So you just to be aware of that. The other thing is we had the habit of actually getting the ice cream every week, which I was like, one, I don't like the milk products, and two, I know it's not great. It's a load of, so I got a machine, and it's like you buy the frozen fruit, and you just let it thaw out a bit, and it tastes like ice cream, and he loves it.
Right.
And what I've noticed is
he rarely wants it now. It was like a habit that it was kind of our thing. And once you get out of it, it's like before you'd always be reaching for it. And it's like, no, don't need it. And if he wants it, I always have the frozen fruit in the freezer. So if he feels like it takes it, thaw it out for about an hour, and then and it's beautiful.
Yeah, 100%. It's so true. Kids are so adaptable and changeable, and they really want to be healthy too, So yeah, we need to help them. We need to help them be as healthy, keep their health, as long as possible.
Yeah,
so
brilliant.
good
Listen,
for you.
Sheila.
Sounds like you're doing an amazing job.
Well, I try my best. Even with all the stuff in the house. I mean, I'm like toothpaste and stuff like that. Make sure there's no fly. But even recently, there was things I didn't even think about. But this year, what I've done is the dishwasher liquid that's natural because you just assume these things. I mean, I tried for the washing machine, like the balls, this kind of balls that you can use, but they weren't cleaning it. But now I've got a new liquid stuff that I got. So I just say to people, make one change and want for these little things. And at the end of the year, you go, wow, look what I've done. And you'll actually notice it in yourself and you go, oh, I've got more energy. I'm sleeping better and all, the compound effect.
Yeah. You become a different person and you didn't even realize it. Slow changes over time, incremental learning. Oh, I didn't know that. Oh, okay. Learn something new, implement, try, see what's happening, what's working, what's not working. And over time, you're like, you have a different lifestyle. You have a healthier lifestyle before you know it, really. Yeah.
Listen, thoroughly enjoyed our conversation. I know that you gave plenty of advice for people to help the people. So you might let people know how can they get in contact with you.
The easiest way to get in touch with me is through my website. I'll spell it. It's my whole name, Sheila Carroll MD, SheilaCarrollMD.com, SheilaCarroll.com. I did create a free guide for people. They can go to the website and download that. It's called 10 Simple Steps to Help Your Child Achieve a Healthy Weight. And on the guide, there's also my email address. So if you just email me, I'm happy to answer any questions. Or, I really want parents to step into, have the confidence that they are the people to make the changes for their child, and that they can do it, simply. And it's not as hard as I think it seems like it might be.
Brilliant. Excellent. I'll make sure I put the link both on the audio and the video. Thank you very much for the conversation.
Thank you so much, Roy.
No problem. So that's all for the Awakening Podcast. You'll find all our episodes on awakeningpodcast.org. As mentioned, we're on BitChute. This one can go on my own personal YouTube channel because the Awakening one was kicked off. And you'll find everything about my other podcasts and my coaching bio.link/podcast. Sure to give us a thumbs up, 5-star rating. Really helps. Until next week, take care.